Welcome, BBCers, to episode number 129 of the League of Legends podcast, Broken by Concept, the number one solo queue information podcast. Now, Curtis, we've got some information today about solo queue for next season, season 13. Riot's been dropping some bombs on us recently.
Bombshells.
You know, this is obviously the time where Riot really think about, adjusting the seasons for, the competitive season, but also, the ranked, what will we play solo queue. They released an article called Changes to Ranked in 2023. So these are upcoming changes for ranked, and this is going to start in January. The ranked season starts, I think they announced an article today as well. It's around Jan 10th is when the new season launches. So, we're about a month away. It's going to come pretty quick, so I hope we're still using preseason pretty well. We've obviously done our last episodes on how to use preseason. So
TikTok.
People might be relaxing, but it's coming up, All right, so we'll read out the article and then we'll break down each part. All right, so they said we've got some changes coming. These are going to be on the PBE. Number one, League of Legends will have 2 ranked resets in season 2023. Split 1 will start at the beginning of the year in January, like it always has. Now they're introducing a Split 2, which will start in the middle of the year. So, we're probably thinking about July or something like that. Whoa.
Probably around June, right? Because the season isn't 12 months.
No, it's not.
Right? So it's about 10 months, isn't it? Right? So
June, probably
about June,
yep.
Right?
So to break this down, so what's going to happen is that you're going to be, playing, ranked resets, you're going to do your promo series. Let's say, you're climbing, you get into like platinum, maybe hit your ranked gold diamond pretty early, March, April, whatever. Bam. You're going to get some rewards potentially. I don't know how the rewards work.
I don't understand. I was actually asking this. How the hell the rewards going to work? Because you know how on the OBGG it has
does it have
21, split 1, split 2?
Yeah, maybe.
How's that going to work? It might be like, 2023, split 1, split 2. This one is very, very interesting. This one has massive effects. I want to talk about it from many aspects. High elo aspect, lower elo aspect, more casual aspect.
Yep. All the different aspects.
All with many aspects.
Yeah. So then June will come round, and then whatever your rank was, bam,
reset.
You'll start.
So we don't know if it's a soft
again.
reset or a hard reset.
It's a soft reset. They've mentioned that.
Soft reset.
So it's the same thing all the time. Your MMR is going to be what it is, and then so let's say, typically the way that it works is that if you play the 10 games promo series, you're maybe a couple of ranks below where you started.
That's actually not really that bad then. So think about it, right? The big criticism. So let's look at it. Let's take the pessimistic stance first. Okay. For people that don't get many games in throughout a season, let's talk the average person, software engineer, busy, doesn't have much time at the end of the day to get many games in. Maybe they do a 2 block during 5 days a week. So they get maybe 10 games in Monday to Friday. And then maybe they get in, let's say another 6 games of the week. So maybe they're getting around 15 to between that 15, 16, 17 games a week, roughly, right? For that player, they might not get the rank that they were looking for in the middle of this, like by the middle of the first split. They might not get enough games because we talk about most people are going to climb with a 52-ish% win rate, which is fair to say, right? And ultimately, that's not enough games probably to make massive leaps and jumps. Because think about it, you got to do your promos, right? Your placement, sorry. You get to a rank, then you got to climb up. You're going to go up and down. You're going to oscillate, get those games in. You might not get enough games in to get that rank by split 1.
So you're saying you might just be getting to your rank by the end of split 1, like the rank you were last season.
Roughly. You might get a little bit higher. You might not, but you might not get to the rank that you were aiming for.
But remember though, even if that's the case, the MMR has still been increased. So then when the split reset comes around, and this is why soft reset's good, then, they're going to be speeding up.
So they might get it by split 2. So ultimately, they might not get it for split 1, but they can definitely get it for split 2 if you do it right. So what it is doing, it's definitely forcing you to take the entire season seriously. You can't slack off for the first half year, then go to the back end, or vice versa. You got to play the entirety of the year in a way.
Yeah.
Because that was the biggest critique for people in my program. People were saying, "Oh, I'm already struggling to get the games in. Is this going to impact it?" So kind of is.
I don't think it really does have an influence
Kind
that
of.
much.
Depends
Yeah.
if you care about getting the rank in split 1 and split 2, Because we don't know really what the rewards are going to look like. Are the rewards going to be the same for split 1 to split 2? Or are there going to be minor rewards split 1?
We'll talk about rewards later, but they have talked about they want rewards for all ranks now, not just because I think that Riot had a big problem of people just getting gold and logging off.
Yeah, they want people to stay in.
Yes.
And I think the other major thing this solves is people getting a rank, camping it, and then going on a Smurf.
Absolutely, yep.
So it is
reduces
it's a very
the accounts.
intelligent way to reduce smurfing, isn't it? Or, I mean, it's still not going to get rid of smurfing, but it's going to incentivize people to play more on their main rather than having multiple accounts, because you can't just camp that rank. You got to keep playing because there's going to reset.
So yeah, I think the optimistic thing is getting people more excited about ranks, I think it's just going to make the system more competitive in general. Yep. I think it's definitely going to have a big influence on that. Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, the season's a really long year, and I think that is funny. I think we'll look back and we'll be like, why did they never do this at the beginning? I think it's really big.
You know what it reminds me of though? Like, because again, we talk about the how solo queue and a ranked season is truly a journey. It's not something that you play for 2 months and then you log off and then you come back 2 months later. It's the ranked system rewards consistency, and this is just another. They're putting it. It's going in the right direction, isn't it? It's rewarding consistent process. It's rewarding consistency, getting games in, regular games in, not logging off for 2 months. It's rewarding that. It's pushing people down that route of taking it seriously, getting the reps and playing throughout the entirety of the season. Having, again, this is just reiterating the importance of a sustainable process as well. It also reminds me of preseason is even more important. Think about it. If you take the preseason off, you take 2 months off, you come in blind on Jan 10th.
It's going to take you 2 months to get into the groove of things, and then suddenly you've only got 3 months left.
You've got barely any time left.
12 weeks.
You've got 12 weeks to get to the rank that you want to get to. That's dick all time.
Yeah.
Another reason why preseason is important. Now, let's talk about it from our perspective. Because I think it makes the high elo journey much harder. Because climbing to Challenger, it's intense. It's a lot of LP. Getting from 0 LP Master, because usually after placements, we're probably like high diamond, right? You're basically D2 or whatever it is. You get to Master pretty quickly. Going from 0 LP to 700.
It's a lot of games.
It's a lot of games.
Even if you can get that pretty quickly, because let's say you have pretty good MMR, you got to get the games in.
Got to get the raw games in. So it's definitely putting
you were
pressure.
Grandmaster most of the year, right? It was not till the back end.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, what happened was I got to Challenger and then I just got sloppy and then let it go down. I can't do that anymore.
No.
I gotta maintain that. I gotta really be on the ball and be thinking, okay, shit. And this is again another reason why I'm getting my pool sorted now, so that I don't have to go through digging around and get my pool sorted throughout the season. It's another huge. I think from now on, I might not even be able to learn champions throughout the season that much anymore. I might not have time.
We talk about the rotation of champions as the meta evolves now throughout the season. That's going to be very cool to manage. So it'd be cool what we talk about next year, how this is going to impact our process.
Yeah,
I'm very interested in
how is this going to impact. Adapting. You got to be way faster at adapting. You don't have time to piss away a month learning a new champion or adapting to a new meta. You got to be really fast. So for people who are really trying to push to Challenger, get split 1, split 2, because I'm trying to maintain the Challenger every season. I got to now get it split 1 and split 2. And now from you on as well, Nathan, you got to get it split 1 and split 2.
Yeah.
So no dicking around from Jan 10th.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see if my 2 account strategy as well, because that's 2 accounts I'm going to have to maintain.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting because you're spreading the games out across multiple accounts. Is that even feasible anymore? Because maybe you're just not going to get enough games in. Because that was working over the course of a year because you got the time. Maybe you don't have the time now anymore.
All right, so we'll continue reading the article here about Wyatt's perspective on this. So they said... the next thing here is they're changing promotion series between tiers of best of 5. Now they're best of 3. It's removing visible rank influence from your matches. Oh, wait, so that's a separate one. All right, so let's do the first one. So now best of 5 to best of 3.
That helps it, right? Because you're doing now, placements are a little bit easier.
Are they easier? Because if you think about it, right, there's less volatility in a best of 5 rather than a best of 3, right?
True. You can get it's if you are genuinely deserving the rank, you're usually going to make
The best of 5.
That's actually a good point. Never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you know how we always say that in a series, best of 5 always the better team
True.
wins.
That's why it's a best of 5, and that's why it's rather better than a best of 3.
So it's more volatility.
I mean, I get it. I mean, look,
It's not really that big of a deal because remember they removed it between Diamond 3, Diamond 2. It's only the Diamond 1
That's right.
thing. So I don't think that matters that much.
But what I always say now, and I think I got to stole it from you, where if you're goal 1, you don't aim for P40 LP.
Yeah, that's right.
You aim for P3.
You got to be, otherwise you're just...
It's like you don't want to be bottom of the... You don't want to aim to be a Platinum 40 LP player. You want to aim to be a genuine Plat 3 Plat 3 player.
It's like when we say when people scramble to get to Master, they just instantly drop anyway. It doesn't matter because they're not aiming high enough. They're too much in that whole mindset of, I just want to get that plat. You got to think way above.
I even apply this to in-game. I don't want to just kill the Nexus.
You got to dominate.
I want to make sure I'm definitely getting the Nexus.
That's
Hence
right.
why if I'm even close to being a fit flip, I'm just going to go back and get Baron and play
right.
tempo reset. You know?
It's like when you've got the 2 inhibs, you could technically end the game, but I'm just going to do it properly, methodically, reset, play off the last tower.
We just take the high percentage play.
Yeah. The last point is they're removing visible rank influence from your matches. So this conversation around this one is that, so currently the way the system works is that it balances the games based on your visible rank and your MMR. Mm-hmm. But now they're doing it purely from MMR.
Oh, that's great. I think that's really good.
So I think the way that they're talking about this is going to be about, they're technically removing Smurf queues around this. So
so that all the Smurfs would be in
they're just playing in normal Platinum 1 games.
Right.
Rather than like a special queue.
Right. So you're saying that like, because Smurf Q was weird, right? Where it was like...
You had like all these gold players that were visible golds, but like they'll be playing with... They're like all MMRs, technically all Platinum 1 or Diamond 4 or something.
So now they're just grouping them all together.
Yeah, so I don't know how I feel about it. That's a bit interesting, right? Like how does it work? How does it know you're a Smurf that early on? Like... Because that's what it would do. It would identify you after the first 3 games, but now you're playing in normal games.
I've never really viewed Smurf Q as a problem.
I agree because those players...
It sorts it out very quickly already.
Yeah, it does. I feel like it does. And especially with the ranked... changes. This is going to decline people from Smurfing as much as well, right? With having the 2 seasons.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if you actually think about it, like the reality is, guys, is that most of the Smurfs, right, they're not really playing in bronze games, silver games,
for long.
Gold, literally like 3-4 games.
They'll barely be there, yeah.
And then I'd say most of them actually are in Platinum 1, Diamond 4 MMR, but it's not that easy to dominate that, unless you're like a challenger player, because most of the Smurfs, the reality is, guys, they're like usually Master Tier 0 LP players.
There's not
or
many
high
like
players.
challenger Smurfs.
No, that's very rare.
It's very rare, yeah.
So yeah, that's I think that's fine. I really think that's fine. I've
never really viewed Smurf Q as a problem anyway.
Yeah.
I just think this is a better step in the right direction anyway, because MMR is what it should be.
It should just be, and that's what it was back in the day. It was just the number you had,
and it was that's what it was.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
All right, so let's rewrite reasoning for this. So there are a number of reasons why we're doing this. One of our designers will cover that below, but at a high level, most players reach their goals for ranked by the middle of the year, leaving them with little to do. So that sort of goes against what you said there, Curtis. That's what they find from the stats. So again, I think they may be leaning towards they're finding that people are hitting their ranked goal, which maybe they're assuming that it is gold for people or platinum, and they're just hitting it and then logging off.
Right.
Because they don't think they can get to the diamond. They don't have the confidence, or they don't take the game as seriously to hit that. Because it is a bit strange, isn't it? Because the way that people would view it is like getting Platinum 3, Platinum 2 wouldn't mean much unless they're going for diamond.
I've always found it strange how people kind of... I've never really understood the mindset behind caring enough to get to gold to get the skin, yet not continuing. I've always viewed it like you either care about ranked or you don't. I'm actually genuinely surprised at how many people who play just to get to gold 4 to get the skin and then stop playing. There is a lot of them.
It's like a culture. Because it's been for so long, it's like you got to get gold to get your rewards.
It's like you get the reward and ranked as shit. Too many it's trolls and toxic people.
Yeah.
Like it's like that's the kind of thing, and we got to change that.
Yeah,
our mission to change that.
Some folks continue their grind, but others drop out of ranked entirely or turn to smurfing, and that goes against some of our core goals of playing ranked and league. At the end of the day, we want you to always have a goal to be able to chase and to reward you for your accomplishments along the way. We're also upgrading the rewards you get from playing ranked to include things like hextech keys, chests, and some other goodies you can unlock along the progression track each split. The way you earn these rewards has been simplified from previous ranked rewards. You'll earn split points for each game of ranked you play, a certain amount per win and a little less for a loss. But that's not all we have in store for rewards.
Oh, because they had that already, but it was like negligible. Like the rewards were terrible.
Yeah. There was like 3 splits a year or whatever. I
didn't even notice
getting
because they were really shitty rewards. Like if there were meaningful rewards, that would actually be pretty cool. Like imagine if it was like you get 500 ranked games, you get like big bonus, you get like a shit ton of chests or a master, like 10 masterwork chests or some shit. Like that would genuinely change it for a lot of people.
Yep. The next line here is 2 ranked splits also means 2 ranked skins.
Oh.
So there you go. They're going to have 2 separate ones.
That's really spicy.
It is.
That's really spicy.
Because we got the Challenger. What was it? The Challenger Sejuani? Yeah, so that's... Imagine if you get like the Grandmaster one, the Challenger, that would be like annoying,
That would be annoying, yeah.
You'll earn these similarly to how you did before with a small change. Starting next season, ranked skins will be available to players of all ranks, not just gold and above.
Oh.
You'll still earn chromas based on your final rank at the end of the split, so keep climbing for the more colourful chromas.
By the way, the Grandmaster Sejuani skin looks better than the Challenger.
Does it really?
Sure.
Oh, I didn't look at that.
It looks sick.
I got a Grandmaster one and a Challenger one.
Oh, really? It looks really cool.
Grandmaster one, then Nathan one. So they're talking about rewards a lot here. As a result, they weren't happy with the current system. They're increasing the number of rewards and placing more earlier on the track. At the same time, we reduce the number of games required to reach each of the existing rewards. Okay. We're also simplifying how split points are earned. First players on the skill threshold between gold and silver will often stop playing once they hit gold. We definitely don't want it to happen, especially if it's early in the season. Second, high skill players can earn the skin by playing a relatively small number of games, just enough to maintain their rank. What about all the silver and below players who are playing hundreds of games a year, actively trying to learn and improve? Fundamentally, we ask ourselves what balance we wanted to strike between rewarding skill and rewarding your time playing ranked. Of course, we still want to reward players for climbing higher and higher, so gold players and above will still earn the skins and chromas that will be distributed at the end of the split, right after completing placements, but now players below them will have a chance to earn the skins as well. If they put in the time. For these players to earn it, they'll have to play a much larger number of games. On top of that, as soon as a silver player hits gold, they'll unlock the skin. If they drop back down to silver, so your best shot to earn it is to still improve and keep climbing.
You know what would be really interesting, Nathan? Just an idea, and then I haven't thought this out. This could be ridiculous. But you know how right now in Challenger we see different types of Challenger accounts. But this is of all ranks, but I'm just going to use Challenger as an example. We talk about the way you climb, right? You can climb with a great MMR account, get that 70 win, 30 loss GM Challenger account. Yep. They exist, right? Games, like accounts that we see them, they have literally double-digit games.
Like one of my accounts, my Nathan 5 account, you're taking Soul's account. Like I'm 200 LP and I'm 25 wins and like 10 losses.
That's right. That is
I'm 300 LP on that account.
That's very different to someone who's got 400 wins, 400 losses.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I don't want to promote spamming games, but what we want to prevent, and what I don't think is healthy for the game, those super high MMR accounts getting to a rank and then just kind of sitting there. Like, it doesn't feel like, because what I believe the ladder should reward is obviously getting to the rank, but like they said, getting games in, because that's what increases the level of play in a server. The more people that are playing bulk amount of games at a high level, just the better you're going to be, right? And I think that, like, imagine if you get a reward for hitting a rank, but then you get additional rewards for how many games you play at that rank. So for example, like, let's say you get a baseline skin for getting Challenger, and then you get additional chromas based off every 100 games that you play in that given rank.
Yep. So maybe it's based on your wins
Right.
Because that's usually nets out to the losses as well.
That's right.
250 win, which is technically about 500 games.
Yeah, that would be so cool because then it incentivizes people to stop going on a second account and giving up because they get to a rank. They want to keep. You got to keep playing at that rank. That would also increase the queue times, decrease the queue times at high elo brackets because
the matchmaking just in general will be more.
It'd be way
proper.
better. Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think all three of these things combined together, like the matching only based on MMR.
Yes.
Right. The
Rewards
the
at all
splits,
ranks.
the rewards thing, and then the two splits.
The two splits with incentivizing people to play more games
on one account.
On one account, yes. They want to prevent the people having multiple accounts going all over the place.
Yep.
I think it's a beautiful step in the right. It's just such a great idea. How many people do they like? Oh, I need to get all these accounts, and they get the rewards and they stop. It's very difficult to do that now. You don't have much time, especially, and then there's more rewards at each rank. Incentivized to get more games in on each account. Genius. I can't believe they haven't even done this before.
That's
honestly.
what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure everyone will be like, "Why was it like that before?"
On that topic, I was actually thinking about this. I might skip to this. I think it's quite. We're going to talk about it anyway. The pick order.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And how now there's a button, so you can literally swap. Because before you had to type an essay, hey, can you swap with me? Blah, blah, blah. But now it's just a button. You just click it. They know you want to swap.
And then someone will say, can you swap? And it's like, oh, I have no champs. But that's not a problem.
That wouldn't even be there, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
by the way, this changed the Hilo community. This is the first time I've seen the positivity of like, this is the best change ever. We're surprised people didn't think about it as well. Switching the pick order. You can just be like, oh, I'm a blind pick person. I'm just going to go. And you're rewarded for blind picking, being a blind pick player, technically.
But before we get into this, I want to talk about like how much of the Wild West solo queue was 5-6 years ago.
Yep.
We went from not even being able to get your role to the first person was the only one that banned all the champions, to then being like it was so bad, like how the rank system, like the way it was terrible, like the champ select anyway, it was terrible, and they're slowly refining it. We'll look back in another 10 years, they'll probably do a bunch of other refinements and be like, holy shit, League was so, like the rank system was terrible.
Yeah.
And I love it because they're just constantly upgrading it. So it's all relative, right?
It is.
You just get used to what you're in.
You do get used to it. No one ever talked about the switching role. No one even conceived of that. And then it just happened and we're like, oh, that's actually a pretty good idea, Because it's part of the game. Yeah, it's part of the game.
Like this is what I always told people. If you blind pick for your, say your first big mid and you have to blind pick your mid, what I always tell people is that you should, like, in a way, I'm expecting, if I'm in that situation, I'm expecting that my other lanes would win.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one that's blind picking. If my AD carry support get counter pick, they should win. If you're last pick in the draft and you're counter picking yourself, you're just ruining it for everyone else. Like you're actually a burden. You got to make sure that you have a shit ton of champ mastery on that champ to make that pick worth it. Like it's important information, and you had a lot of success as all you, I think, because of one of the things you swapped. And helped your solo laners. You'd help your top and your mid get counter pick. That is a huge win for your team because as a jungler, it's like, all right, well, I can suck it up. I'm going to play Rek'Sai anyway, or Volibear anyway, whatever it is. That's massive. And what I love about this change is, it's the culture behind it. It's the messaging. It's a Riot saying, we are aware of the significance of pick order. That's what I don't even, for me, it's not even about the mechanism. It's about the message you're spreading. Pick order is significant. You need to be thinking about pick order. That's what I love about it. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that they sat around the table. They're not just let it to be the Wild West. They're trying to figure out how to put these things in the game itself, so people think about
how do we
culture around it.
Yes. Again, they're trying to make this ranked experience better and better and better and more competitive. It's and all of these are very good changes. And again, this is going to be our massive spiel for the next year. We love ranked.
Absolutely.
Ranked is a beautiful, it's an amazing, we are so lucky to have access to such a sophisticated ranking system.
In a competitive game. I mean, yeah, look at a lot of the games that I played, they died because they didn't have a good rank system.
Even Counter-Strike, all these games have terrible rank systems. You know, one of them that we take for granted that is so good is that in League, you actually see the progression of where you're at. In Counter-Strike, you just play. You don't even know if you're going to rank up or rank down.
Yeah.
It's like you get anxiety after each game if you lose. Like, oh my God, am I going to D-rank?
Yeah.
And they're so unsatisfying. And a lot of the pros get to global elite so easily. Like they play pug systems because they have to do external third-party systems, fuck around systems, pay extra fees to join like a pug system.
Yeah.
We are so lucky. The whole thing's free. You don't have to have any third-party systems, nothing.
Yeah, Raj just figures this out for us. I mean, it goes even further than that, Curtis. Imagine if like soccer or tennis or something had a system like this as well. Like especially in terms of scouting, like this is what I always say, like the ladder is incredible. We don't need to have college or universities because the system scouts already.
The system scouts it for
us.
you.
That's unbelievable.
It's really like people overcall. This is like a whole nother. We don't even get into this, but like that's why we think solo queue is so amazing. It's literally the scouting. It does the scouting for you. And when has there been a rank 1 player that hasn't performed well, really?
That's right.
And been like not the best
It's
player.
a pure meritocracy.
It's a meritocracy.
Yeah.
Yep. That's right.
You know, you can't just, you got some, and just like this, you know, the story of the journey that Riot always pushed in like those world championship videos, like the Warriors and stuff. It's like, you know, you could just be some kid, you know, some 14-year-old kid. No one knows you, nothing. And, you know, you can climb to the heights.
Anyone can make it.
Anyone can.
It's not discriminatory at all.
It's not like you're like tennis and you have like parents, you can get into the best club or something like that. Or you have like, you know, the best coaches. Obviously, you know, you can still, you know, have like, you know, your brothers and stuff like that, you know, have an advantage. But yeah, that's the beautiful thing about it. It's a pure
meritocracy. Yeah, there's no like advantages that you can get. Everyone is playing the same game on the same ladder. There's no elitist community that like has a separate ladder
blocks
system.
people out.
No, it's yeah, you're spot on. It's something we take for granted massively.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, we're overall really happy, and this is awesome that Riot's thinking this way, and you know, this just goes back to, you know, just this is Riot Games.
We're fanboys.
We're fanboys.
We're hardcore fanboys.
We are. We've definitely got to have Proxon on again. You know, sometime later this year.
We'll get him on again. Yeah.
You know, we'll do like a yearly thing. All right, next one here is. Jungle was a big talking point for the changes. Obviously, that was a big part of the preseason changes. We did an episode. It was very controversial. Riot made another post this week about the state of the jungle, their approach to it, what they've seen so far from the preseason release. So, you know, sit tight. This is a bit of a longer post, but I'll nitpick what things that we're looking at here. All right, so, yep, they've seen some things, and this is their intention, what they're thinking about. So, shift in. So before we started, I just want to list out goals for the jungle changes overall. They want a shift in jungle complexity into more rewarding and meaningful areas. They want to make junglers less reliant on their teammates to succeed in the role.
It's all right. We've gone back to the old system, so the OGs will know what we're doing here.
Have to change the camera. All right. Increase the skill floor of the jungle role to make getting auto-filled in jungle a less miserable experience. You talked a big one about this, Curtis. You're a big one on that one. All right, so now let's talk about what we're observing, what we think, and plans, if any, we have to address to some of these areas. The first area, counter jungling. So what they did this season, for people that don't know, is they made counter jungling harder because the enemy camps are tankier, they're harder to take.
Have you noticed that, by the way, in your games?
Absolutely. It definitely is a bit of a it's definitely now more of a really committed decision. It's like, I can't just get
Does your smite do the same damage?
Yeah.
In their jungle?
Yeah. It's just your auto attacks. They're just like tankier armor and stuff like that. All right, so the first area I want to discuss is counter jungling, as it's been a hot topic ever since the changes were announced earlier this year. And while we do think it's a core part of the role and adds depth and skill expression in the forms of pathing, ganking, and general decision making, we also don't think the way it was in the game before preseason was the healthiest version of it. Junglers often pick their champions to round out a team comp for clear speed comfort or what's meta at the time. But more than that, early in the game, junglers are an absolute mercy of their team. So even if you pick a champion with decent clear speed, if your mid has been shoved in, you have no one to help you stave off a 2v1 invade.
Is that what they've seen?
That's what they've said. That's a really interesting point there, because, you know, the way that you think about it is that you sort of got to, that's part of the game. You sort of got to predict that you're going to lose priority. So you have to sort of think about...
They're saying that's a problem.
That's a problem. They don't want that. They don't want junglers to feel powerless, getting invaded. But isn't that weird for the other team? It's like, well, then you have less options to punish.
Wouldn't everyone just play scaling junglers then?
Yeah, so that's a little bit concerning.
That's very weird.
So they don't like that. Because think about it, then doesn't that mean that picking lanes with priority means less?
They want it to be
and that's
more...
a big part of draft. You know, that's the trade-off of an early game champion and a scaling champion.
I feel like it should be embedded within the skill set of playing a scaling champ is how do I minimize?
Yes.
How do I not die to an invade? Like you should be thinking about prio and lanes and like...
And if you're playing a Kassadin, you need to get punished because you're playing Kassadin.
That's right.
So that's a little bit concerning. That's sort of what they're talking about, right?
Weird. It's very strange.
So to help prevent the early invades, we made it take more time to clear the enemy jungle early. You still can invade, but it's more important that you either have knowledge of the enemy jungler's location or enemy's location, or just willing to take that risk. But this trade-off means the rewards are more impactful than they were before preseason. With the addition of companions, your smite's upgrade is reliant on the number of camps you clear, not how many times you smite. This means that if you take a risk, encounter early, even with the increased time it takes to clear the camp, you win bigger than before as your smite is closer to being more powerful and your opponent is further away.
And they can't take... It's harder for them to take your camps.
Yeah.
That's right.
The other reason we wanted to move away from very early counter jungling is because it's a pretty miserable experience when you're on the receiving end. Every laner has had the experience of having a lane frozen on them and being forced off the wave. You're down in CS and experience, but when this happens in lane, someone can help you break a freeze while that isn't possible in the jungle. When your camps are gone and you're down in experience, you have nothing left to do other than gank, and ganking when you're behind leaves your opponent to counter ganks and losing objectives. Even then, the enemy jungler has timers for all your camps and can continue to punish you, making the experience uniquely miserable. So while counter jungling is a bit different than it was before preseason, we feel it still exists in the game, but in a much less frustrating form. All of this said, while we're happy with the direction this is moving in, we are keeping a close eye to make sure that jungling still retains places for skill expression. So that's their spiel on counter jungling. So not entirely sure if I agree, but I'm not completely opposed to this as well because like I play early game junglers, right? And specifically if you're let's say I'm playing versus a Kane, right? And I do like a red Krugs Raptors and I gank bot or whatever, right? And then my blue and Gromp is open too. It's actually takes a ridiculous amount of time for a Kane to counter jungle me. So technically. To take the blue and the Gromp because they're single target camps, technically, that's actually good for me in a way compared to before where the Kane would just get those camps and just outscale me. So it has its pros and cons. I mean, in my mind as well, like the counter jungling aspect, like, you get into trade sides map situation and just the flow of the game, it doesn't really matter that much. It's often the time. Like I play early game junglers, counter jungling, I'm still getting massive leads and it's no problem. Like at the end of the day, the enemy can't walk in, they can't walk in. Like if I'm playing, if I have a Rumble mid against a Zeri, I'm still getting those camps probably.
If counter jungling is made difficult, it might actually benefit ganking junglers more than it does scaling junglers, thinking about it more because because one of the big risks, right, with ganking is it doesn't work and then you lose your camps, right? That's the risk mainly. But if they're reducing that, the best they can do is just continue to full clear and then you're behind in tempo, but it's not the end of the world because you still got your camps up. You can still go to your sides. So.
Or laners will rotate and kill you easier because it takes longer to take the camps.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it?
It is. That's why it says it has its pros and cons. So we'll see how that goes. But it's interesting. Again, I think it's interesting the way they frame that. They think that's bad for the game, the lane priority.
It seems to me just kind of, from what I can gather, they want jungle to be a lot more simpler in the early game anyway. In terms of just like, they want there to be more room for error, essentially.
Less room for error.
Sorry. No, more room for error. They want there to, as in, I don't know how the saying goes. Like, so you make a mistake and you can come back.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Oh, okay. More room for error.
That's what I'm saying. Right? Yeah. Like, that's what they want. Yeah. Right? They want, if you do get invaded, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, more room for error. Yeah, that's right. Because they want it to be a more friendlier role. Yeah.
Do you really feel like that? Like, I don't feel like that in lane though. Like, I don't feel like if I get frozen on, it's very hard for someone to get someone to come and unbreak it. That's not common.
That's not common for a jungler.
I don't feel like
to
it's
do.
common like to get someone to help unbreak a freeze. Like
Especially full clear junglers.
and a
that
lot
are
of the
doing
time people just they just ignore your pings anyway. People don't even understand the importance of unbreaking a freeze in majority of elos. Like I've never felt that unbreaking a freeze is super common. Like they're talking as if it's like really easy to unbreak a freeze.
You review all ranks. What have you noticed when your mid laners get
I would say more often than not, well, I think the first problem is that it takes too long for mid laners to realize their wave is fucked.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I think that's a problem. Yeah. But then I think number two, like a lot of the time, your jungler is not going to change their pathing to help you break a freeze. It's just the reality from what I've seen.
They've based. They haven't seen it. They've
once they've left that lane, like
they're
it's
not coming
very
back.
rare they're coming back. Like maybe I think in the higher elo brackets it gets easier, but below master, it's not easy to get someone to help you unbreak a freeze. No. And a lot of the time, even just unbreaking a freeze in general is hard to do. Like if you're low and low mana and you get your jungler, a lot of the time your jungler's weak in the early game and they can't. A lot of the time, it's not easy to do, even in a 1v2 scenario.
No. And if I'm versus good junglers, they know that I'm going to break the freeze. They're there, and then suddenly now we're in a state like I'm just screwed.
Because I'll be honest, like I mean, I'm not a jungler, so it's hard for me to comment on this. But when I think of how hard a mid laner can get punished and how hard a jungler can get punished, I think they're very similar.
Yes, they are.
Like in its current stance. So like I don't really view it as like mids get punished less than junglers.
Laners can help junglers and junglers can help laners.
That's right. I think it's where it's at, I think it's quite similar, if not even more punishing for a laner. Like a top laner. If you get your lane frozen in a top lane, I think you're basically done.
Yep, especially in certain matchups.
Yeah. Yep. So I'll be honest, like I don't know, I feel a little bit weird about that entire thing, but we'll see how they go.
Yeah. Next topic is clear optimizations. That was a very big one. So this guy says he plays Shaco, and I love clear optimization. So I'm sad that it's less of an option than before, but we needed to make a change here. Before preseason, the clear speed and health for an optimized clear versus a non-optimized clear was honestly pretty insane. I think that's definitely true.
This is before the changes.
Before the changes.
Right.
You basically had to spend a lot of time to optimize, otherwise you're at a huge disadvantage. Yeah. And right now it's, doing an optimized clear is like not even that different or worth.
So what are we talking, like 10 seconds, 5 seconds different? 5 seconds different?
Well, I would say, it's time, but it's more about the health and mana more so. That's very important. When we were thinking about these jungle changes, we had to answer the question, how much should we prioritize a player's learned skills and experience over things like role accessibility, champion diversity, and so on? The answer to that is complicated. Optimizations are good for the role with two major exceptions. Jungle viability being defined by clear speeds and unintuitive optimizations like camp, dot, dragon. We still want clear optimizations to exist. We think that they're a healthy aspect of jungling skill expression, but we want to be taken out of champion select and into the game by putting AoE and single target junglers on a more even playing field and removing the particular unintuitive optimization of letting a camp die to the jungle dot while you walk away to your next camp. Some of the most dramatic updates is preseason with the leash range changes to reduce double camping and making kiting optimizations less important. Directionally, we think these changes are valuable, but the original launch versions overshot our goal and removed too much clear mastery. To correct this, we recently adjusted deletion ranges to be a bit more lenient. That said, we do expect to continue to examine jungle clearing mastery and rewards and look at where we may have gone too far in the future. So yeah, I think that they have done a good job. I think it's really important. I love this change because I just don't spend any of my energy as a challenger jungler onto this stuff, just the nature of the champions I play. And just from my experience of getting new people to the role, I think this is helpful because I think junglers already struggle to understand the role of the jungler, and reading the map is already a huge part of your mental stack. So yeah, I think that they maybe could make it a little bit more harder. I think maybe they went too far on the easy side. So if they make the leash ranges a little bit more forgiving, so you can like drag to the next camp, maybe that little bit of skill is okay. And the last one here is pathing. We also altered pathing a fair bit this season with scuttle crab changes, clear speed tweaks, and adjustments to Gromp and Krugs. A large portion of jungle skill expression is dynamically adjusting your pathing based on the game state. Our goal isn't to change that, but we also don't want pathing to be exclusively decided by your clear speed and crab timings like it has been previously. We don't want it to be defined by which champ is painful to take Krugs or which champ will get you back to full health. Krugs were a painful camp to take, as they were. Krugs meaningfully reduced pathing options since most champs. Another problematic camp was Scuttle Crab. Yeah, so before that, the Krugs change was absolutely fantastic.
By the way, does Krugs give the same amount of gold than it did before?
I still haven't checked that.
Does it give the same XP?
I still don't know. I would assume
I love Krugs right now as Yone. I'm loving it.
You steal the Krugs away, dude.
Oh, when I'm in the side, it's so easy to take Krugs now.
Yeah, it would be, isn't it?
Like, I always felt stressed before trying to take Krugs because like they go into the medium Krugs and you got to kill them, and they go to the small Krugs. This is so clean.
Yeah.
It's one shot.
Yeah, I think the Krugs change is absolutely fantastic. Another problem camp was Scuttle Crab. Scuttle spawn time meant if your champion couldn't clear and make it to Scuttle by 3:15, they weren't viable. Now that it spawns at 3:30, faster clearers can get full recalls or full ganks off before Crab, while slower clearers can actually get through their camps in time to contest. Yeah, so that's fantastic. Well, not really much to comment on that. They're still testing the changes and stuff like that. Have you noticed anything, Curtis, with the Scuttle Crab? Do you lose game over Scuttle Crab?
It's
funny over the seasons how, remember how people would like Scuttle Crab fight was a big deal.
It's like, I went through with meta, right? Where it's like,
season
if
11,
your champ
right?
can't contest first crab, or if you're not thinking about first crab, the game is way harder to win.
Yeah.
But then it went to like, no one gives a shit.
Crab's
for me,
less priority.
I've actually this entire season I literally haven't even thought about it.
Yeah.
When someone comes into me in the MLA and says, "Oh, I was thinking about crab, Scott," I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to do what I'm doing. What's good for me.
Yeah.
No matter what. And if I can do it, I can. If I don't, if we have to give it, I don't care.
Yeah.
But now it just feels like, it's way more forgiving. I just see my jungle trade scuttles all the time. It's like, oh, they're doing it. I can get the other one. That's just what I've noticed. The only thing for me that I've noticed is kind of three things that I've noticed from a mid laner's perspective. Number one, the leash range on the Raptors is different. So when like you're like, so as Yone, you like Q over the wall to like stack your Q3 at level 1, like it kind of pulls differently. And I'd say number two, the 3 camp loop through mid gank is way more popular. I'm seeing it in lower elo. I would very rarely see that in lower elo, by the way. That was a high elo gank path. Now it's a lower elo gank path. I see that in like gold and plat, and I didn't see that in low plat before. Very rarely, anyway.
That's so funny. You know, we talked a lot about mid lane is just never getting ganked, and now with this new path, it's like getting ganked a lot earlier, more so than other lanes.
And what I've noticed in the MLA, people are now panicking about getting a 2-minute. It's actually earlier now. Before you could very like easily get a 230 ward out and you'd be safe.
Earlier,
it's true. That's too late. If you're warding at 230, they can be there and you're dead. So you got to ward like 225 between 220 and 225 now. That extra 5 seconds actually makes a lot of difference. So yeah, you got to be more on top of your wards. You got to be more thinking about as well. I think in a way more aware of where they start, because again, you would automatically think they started bot, they're going to gank me from top side. Now that it's 50-50, they could gank you from bot or top just because of the way the pathing works now. So that's that's also one of it. And the third one obviously was Krugs. And because I've been playing a shit ton of Yone, it feels really do Krugs.
So later game, you're just happy to do Krugs. You walk into the lane, I can quickly do Krugs and then get the minions.
Yeah, I would feel a lot more stressed to do Krugs, especially when I'm countering the enemy's Krugs. Like if I'm on the other side of the map. But now it's like I can get them really quick. And the little ones are worth 12 gold each.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of gold.
Yeah, the little ones are really important to get.
Just like pop them and then you get like 100 gold just like instantly basically, it's really good. Or something. It's a lot of gold. So I've been loving that. So that's the three things that for me that I've noticed from a mid perspective.
All right, so they said introducing large changes like this to League is never an easy decision. The jungle changes are still very new, so we ask that you be patient as we collect more data to help us continue to improve upon these changes over the next few months. So yeah, I think, we talked a lot about, the couple of things we've talked about on this podcast is that, you've had very strong opinions on what you think a jungler should do, and you think that that role is very misunderstood, and Riot is bad at explaining what that role is. And
I don't even think they know themselves.
Yeah, I think
they're figuring it out slowly.
This season, I think we will take big strides. Yeah. As I said before, is that on the Jungle podcast, these changes, we're really going to start to know what makes a good jungler or not. Because again, before it was just about, someone could full clear 315 and get on Crab. That chunk of champions meta. Now a lot of the junglers on an even playing field. It opens up more.
Yeah, you're right. I think this next season, with all the changes, we're going to find out what does the skill set of a great jungler, even a player and a champion, look like.
The esports scene will be. I'm so fascinated to see. The competitive scene.
Really intrigued.
What junglers are getting picked and how they're playing it.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. I think it's great for you. Because you're at the forefront, you're able to figure it out.
Absolutely,
you know?
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
the Soul 2, we're going to be like we're going to be studying this new environment.
Yeah.
You know.
That's it for the changes.
Yep, that's it for the changes.
So I want to switch gears a little bit here. Now we have themes in the BBC in our universe. We have key messages that we want to push. One of them that we're really passionate about is having a deep respect for the execution of the game, the execution part of the game. And,
we talk a lot of that flows into that is what people don't think and they don't respect is the mental stack, what humans are capable of and what we need to build into intuition instead of just thinking, it's a video game, I can do everything.
And understanding what makes League actually difficult. Right. And yes, there is no doubt that the baseline knowledge of the game at the start, the barrier to entry is quite high.
Very high.
There's a lot of champions you need to learn, a lot of abilities. There's a lot of stuff, right? And then, there's the basic concepts, understanding the fundamentals of the game, how the game flows. But I would say for the most part, if you get the champions down pat, the actual concepts are not that complicated, right? It's not a very complicated, like from a conceptual like this is a tower, this is a rift herald, this is a dragon, like a lot of it isn't really that advanced.
I have a quote here, Curtis, that was from a karate master.
Okay.
That ties into this. I'll find it was in my Soul to Solo Queue motivation channel. We have a motivational channel. There are no black belt techniques. There are only basic techniques done at a black belt level.
Yes, I love that's literally a beautiful quote. That's exactly what I'm talking about here. When me and you think of challenger level gameplay, I guarantee you both of us think about similar things in our respective roles. We think of basic things done very well, done consistently over a large span of games with champ mastery.
Yeah.
Right? That is what makes it. It's consistency that leads to a challenger player. We don't think of the fancy outplays. We don't think of the crazy, all the fancy little details.
Those are cool, but they rarely happen enough to influence our entire journey.
That's right. Over the span of hundreds of games, and what has led to consistency and our success is
what wins us games is very boring stuff.
Very boring stuff. It's like, do I know how to consistently manage my waves while being able to trade in this matchup and track the enemy jungle?
Yep.
Now, that sounds very easy to do, but I dare you to try and do it in a heavy trading matchup.
That's right.
If I'm playing Victor versus LeBlanc and I'm versing a Lee Sin and I'm versing a Bard, sure, I could know on a theory level on paper what I need to do, and I could easily coach someone watch someone play that and be like, oh yeah, you should be doing it. But to balance CSing with trading, with the waves, with my leaning and the jungle tracking and the support roams and all this stuff.
All this information coming at you, you might even be aware with some of it, but a huge thing, I had a review that I talked about on Today in Soul 2, where I had the whole idea, the whole game plan ready to go, all planned out. This piece of information happened that I sort of expected, but completely threw everything off. And I'm back, and then I completely ended the review because I did something dumb after
Just exploded.
Even as a player as simple as experienced as me.
The execution part of the game is something that we cannot stress enough, okay? That is what makes League of Legends incredibly difficult. Now, we have been, I think both you and I are guilty of this when we first started coaching.
Absolutely.
And I want to give it a name. We're going to call it, there's many viruses going around nowadays. There was the COVID virus and the pandemic. There's a new pandemic out there in the league community, the coaching community. It's called the God mode illness, the God mode sickness. Okay.
So this is something you catch.
You catch this. It's very easy to catch, actually. It's very contagious.
I've caught it.
Yeah, we both caught it at different stages. There is a cure, though. right? There is a cure. We'll talk about the cure in a second. But let's first identify or define what this God mode illness or sickness is, right? Very scary, very dangerous, life-threatening. So when you watch a lot of league, right, when you do a lot of coaching, you can very easily fall into the trap of losing perspective of what's doable and what's not doable from a mental stack perspective. So when we sit there, right, multiple hours every day, 5 or so hours a day, watching people's VODs, if we don't play the game, it gets very difficult for us to say, okay, what should we call this player out on and what should we not call this player out on? And why we call it God mode sickness here is that you lose perspective of how that person's mental stack will be feeling. So anyone, right, anyone that's played the game to a relatively high level, at least once, or studied the game quite significantly, can probably sit there at a VOD and pinpoint a lot of areas someone is going wrong. But the ability to prioritize what that person should or shouldn't do, what is actually reasonable to assume from that client, is what differentiates a lot of coaches. Hence why we talk about the importance of playing the game and also ourselves being high elo players, because we know how it feels like to be in similar situations, the feeling of being in this situation. And so in the past, when we first started coaching, again, especially when you're doing a lot of coaching, it randomly comes out of nowhere. You're like, holy shit, I've just told this guy that he should be doing this, this, and this. There is no way. I couldn't even do that.
No.
Like, I'm telling a platinum player that he should be doing boom, 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 boom. He should be doing this, this. No, I can't even do that. That's very difficult to do. Even though it may look, quote unquote, simple on paper, to execute upon that is fucking hard. And so
the typical one that I used to do, I used to review gold, like graves and stuff like that. And I'll talk about that whole level 2 trade sides and the map type stuff. And I'm like, I'm talking about the whole theory and the execution and feel around that, but it's impossible to get through because there's so much other fundamentals of the game that we need to focus on that is lacking. And then that we're in that God mode. And even them getting into that situation, they see other players do that. Like, that's pretty easy to do. They're doing they've got the God mode sickness themselves, because they see that. They see all these high-elo graves. I watch Tarzan and stuff doing that, but they completely aren't able to improve on it or execute it properly, not even get close to it, and they should never be doing it, and they just give up on the champion because of this sickness.
I've got 2 things that I've now aware of, 2 mistakes that I used to do in coaching. One of them was a very common one where, say there's someone trading in mid and they have a ward out, they've actually got the ward out, they're actually leaning and they're trading or they're doing something in lane. Someone walks over that ward and then they die to a gank. I used to get very frustrated or actually be like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, this is so basic.
It's not basic at all. If you're trading, it's not feasible for that person to be looking at the minimap at that time. Hence why I over time realized the importance of miniature lull states and forcing miniature lull states, creating miniature lull states, so you can actually take a step back and think and look at the minimap.
Because you have to sort of be anticipating that they might be around there.
That's right.
That information.
Well, there's 2 things. Quickly. Yes. So I love that you brought that up because in mid, right? I always use the analogy of if you're driving on the freeway on a rainy day, you're going to be a lot more aware of your surroundings and who's around you because you are inherently feeling a lot more threatened or a lot more, you're volatile. You're in a volatile situation. You're in a very dangerous situation. So of course, you're going to take the time to look at all the mirrors and be aware of your surroundings and check the speed, make sure your wind wipers are going on. You're going to be very hyper aware of everything's happening around you. You won't be able to have a conversation. You won't be able to listen to the radio or listen to that podcast because you're doing all this shit around you. So the equivalent of this in league is that if you know you're versing a Pike and you're versing a Rek'Sai, you're going to have to probably say no to a few trades, purposely step back in the lane to actually force time to look at the minimap because you know that you're under threat. You actually have to make an inherent sacrifice. The sacrifice of trading and hardcore micro tethering to create time to literally allocate part of your mental stack to thinking about looking at the minimap. So then the question becomes, if someone makes that mistake, the mistake's not map awareness at all. It's a threat assessment problem. this person doesn't have the right mindset. He's actually in the wrong mindset. He's actually thinking, how do I win the 1v1? You should be in a defensive mindset. You should be thinking, how do I survive here? I know that this guy's going to kill me. I have no flash.
So what would you say being infected by the God mode illness in that situation?
Yeah, so if I was, I was infected by it when I first started coaching. I'd say, oh yeah, you've got a map awareness problem. You're not looking at the map enough. Something like that. Some bullshit about not looking at the map enough, or like you need a, something about that. Like it's not a map awareness problem at all. And so, but again, I'm only able to come to that conclusion because I know how it would feel to be trading in some of these heavy trading matchups and how overwhelming your mental stack is and what you should be feeling versus these sorts of champions. Another one I would say is, again, in skirmishes, like if you're in a skirmish and you're in a team fight, you're not able to be hyper aware of where everyone's moving and you're tunnel just doing your job in front of you. It's very unlikely you're going to be aware of that TP flank coming from behind you and shit. Like a lot of the time, and this is what I get VOD questions, right? People send me deaths and I love it. I love getting clips I can see. And there are clients that have a tendency to over exaggerate particular deaths. They're looking for a formula they're looking for the answer. They say, Curtis, what could I take away from this death? I had a death from Tom in the MLA. He was in an intense situation. He killed someone. The jungler comes and he was trying to bait the jungler as well. But then the support came and he died to the support. And I'm like, no, you just die here.
That's right.
You're going to die every time here.
They played well.
Came
from a good position, and just don't put too much mental energy into this.
It's a 0.01%.
Yeah.
You've done a good job. You ticked a lot of boxes. It's unreasonable for me to expect that you would have been able to notice that support. It's just not possible.
But when you have the God mode sickness, you're like, that's something you should be doing. You
should be focusing on that.
Come on, like why aren't you focusing on that?
It's exactly. Yeah. You actually confuse the fuck out of the client. You make the client worse because you're overwhelming. You're over exaggerating their mistakes. So that is the God mode, and the way to what do they call it? The vaccine. Right, what do they call the Pfizer vaccine equivalent? Is to play the game, dude. Play the game, play solo queue, play it at a high level, play the champ, put yourself in these situations, understand what it would feel like. And you got to give yourself a regular dose, dude. This is like a regular dosage type thing. You got to give yourself a weekly dose of this shit because it will come back quick. It's highly contagious. Everyone has it. All right, it will come back.
Sometimes I jump into peer reviews in Soltu and I can feel the presence of the God mode thing in there.
Basically,
it's like you should have done this. You should have done this.
99% of peer reviews are exactly that.
Yeah,
but you can't expect because they're not coaches again. At the end of the
day. The thing is as well, Curtis, especially as what people think challenger players are, and people what think that our gameplay is. Dude, games are just so chaotic and messy because of.
The mental stack.
The mental stack. And the God mode doesn't exist, dude.
The mental stack is so big. What happens, right? Imagine like we play, let's say we play the exact same mid matchup in gold, platinum, diamond, master, grandmaster, challenger. Let's just take one matchup, Victor versus LeBlanc, right? If you're the Victor in this matchup, and even in LeBlanc, every rank you get higher and higher and higher, the matchup is being played differently. They're posturing more aggressively. They're punishing you more for last hits. They're managing the wave a little bit better. They're getting in your face. They're going for tempo resets. They're taking better runes and summoners. You're getting better and better and better. To the point where when you're playing versus a LeBlanc that has insane amount of champ mastery, that has very good micro and tethering, you maybe once were able to think, look at the jungle, look at the support.
I'm not getting pressured on minions, so I have more lull states.
It will change.
The more you get pressured, the more mistakes you will make.
That's right. Yes. They're getting up in your face. That's why Cupcake talks about and emphasizes being pressuring every minion as a support, overwhelming the mental stack of the enemy support, overwhelming the mental stack of the enemy AD carry, and making them more tunnel vision. These are things that you can't see unless you play.
That's right.
You can feel it. You can't see it. You can't see threat a lot of the time, can you? No. It's a feeling.
It's invisible. And a lot of it's putting yourself in the enemy. That's when I think about high pressure jungling, I'm more thinking about what is the enemy feeling. So then I know that I'm forcing them to make errors.
Yeah.
Because I know they're not gods.
Like you path top side, they don't know there's no vision. You know there's no vision.
Yeah.
And you can just go to the other side of the map, but they have to play scared.
And if you review that, the God mode take would be like,
are you
I
doing?
should know that. Like, it's like an Elise, like, or something like that. He could easily do that.
Or another one, what you'll see is like, say you'll probably see with like, I mean, I'm sure there's many coaches out there that have done this where like maybe they're coaching top and then like they see the trade that like they could be taking really good trades, but they're purposely not taking good trades because they know the jungler could be there.
Or has had a trend in that game of being there or getting camped.
And then
a
the
bit
coach
more.
might like roast them. Like, why are you trading? You could be trading here. But no, I don't know. Like a lot of the time people would watch even my gameplay. Like you could be taking this trade by say, but I don't know where they are.
No.
Like I'm not going for the trade. I don't know where they are. Like I don't want to die. But unless you're in the game, you don't know what it feels like. Again, so...
And there might be like a point in review, or let's say I do a path or I try something or you don't take the trade, and then in the review we think, is it real? Maybe I actually should know that he was not there and I could go for that trade. That's the push in the 1%ers for sure. But that's how, again, games get sloppy and you miss opportunities and we're not all gods in the game. And it's not realistic to even the best players in the world make basic mistakes.
Yep, see it all the time.
Make sure that we are not all pretending to be gods because it's not possible.
That's right. We must consistently have a deep respect for the execution of the game and the
be realistic. We've got to be realistic.
We have to be realistic at all times. Following on from our discussion, this was a while ago. I think it was last week. I want to get it here. This was from Fuserix. And he was listening to the part where we spoke about the Andrew Huberman and the dopamine, getting dopamine through the process rather than the result.
Yep.
That was really interesting. So he was actually a competitive short track speed skater. And he still does it to this day, but he's not really into, he just does it for like a hobby now, something he's passionate about.
So is that like skating on like...
I'm assuming it's skating in like a lap, like the lap thing.
Oh yeah. So it's not ice, but it's like the... those rings?
I don't know what short track speed skater. I don't really know if that's ice or that's like some sort of surface.
Like a rollerblade. Like
I don't know if that's
things.
roller skating or something.
Yeah.
Disco 70s roller skating.
That's my visualization. Let's keep it like that. It's disco roller skating around the ring.
Anyway, he did some reflection. He's like, why? He said, why can I feel good with skating regardless of how practice went? But with League, I'm internally deeming my blocks good or bad based on how the games went. That's a great question. Why? And he's able to go through the process of skating and not emphasize how well or did or how good or bad he did. But in League, he's always thinking about it, right? Why is that? So I'm going to read his answers. He said, number one, I'm skating for self-improvement only. I'm not doing competitions anymore, whereas solo queue is the competition. And that added stress of rank is influencing my short-term thinking. That's one. Number two, when we measure progress in skating, it's always after a longer period of time, in brackets 3 to 4 months. So you just practice for 3 to 4 months, then you do a test to see kind of how much you've improved, right?
So you're not sitting there thinking every day how much you've improved.
That's right.
Me and Charlie actually had a conversation about this. The way that we emphasize whether we're going to learn a new champion or we're going to give up on the game or we suck, we need to change role. We said that for every one loss we have is the equivalent of like 5 wins.
That's right.
So like if you like lose one game of a champion and you see all the flaws of the champion, suddenly even if you won 5 games in a row, now suddenly that one loss is equivalent to 5. Like you have to win 6 games to think the champion's still good.
And we spoke about that before, being losses being more painful than wins. But he goes on to say, we do these flyer laps, which is basically a test to measure our fastest lap time. In brackets, endurance is a bit harder to measure, but we do notice a difference in ability over time. But with League, it's so easy to try and measure progress every game because there is an instant gratification of the plus minus LP. So that's like doing a flyer lap every week to see if we are faster than the week before, but that would be so ridiculous. So in traditional sports, progress is almost never measured that frequently. So why would I do that for League? That's what he realized. So he said, hopefully after coming to this realization, I can start to shift my mindset around results-oriented thinking when I play League. Focusing on the LP was definitely a pitfall for me in the past, but I think I'm starting to realize when I'm doing it, so that will help a lot in the long term. So I love that. We tend to measure success every game. We measure where we're at every game rather than thinking in long-term spans, spans of months.
It comes down to the 52% win rate mindset. It's like you're not going to be winning every game, and having that little extra 2%, your hearts, it's like that's... In the long grand scheme of things, there's not many. You're not winning many games.
It's just the culture of traditional sport. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, They're lucky that that's just inbuilt into
It's
it.
inbuilt. It's inbuilt within the
Yeah.
system. Whereas in league, you got to force it. You got to like really be actively thinking about this, like this mindset of like long term. Like
You can't artificially create the crowd of an NFL game, the pressure, set up the whole, the intensity between two every hour of the day. Impossible.
yeah, because because that's what he said. Like every game of solo queue is the competition, which is something you just got to deal with.
Yeah. There's a crowd watching. It's just
Every game.
Every game.
Every game.
So it's so interesting how you're meant to be improving, practicing, and
It's the dojo
performing.
and the final stage in a way. That's why we say every game is the most important and the least important.
Yeah.
Keep coming back to the same messages.
And I think that's just we're just gonna have to accept that.
No, that's what we said, Nathan. It's just the double thing, the George Orwell double thing. It's not one or the other. It's both. It is the most important and the least important. It is the practice environment and the performance environment. It is always both. We got to start thinking outside of black and white. It's not black and white.
No.
It's black. No, it's not black or white. It's black and white. And that's just the way it is. That's just league. And there are some things that are more complicated, more nuanced. We're not in this is not a very, simple environment. It's just not.
On top of how new it is and how this has
right.
not been done before.
And that's why it's one of the most brutal games in the world. Or it is the most, we believe it's the most brutal game in the world.
Yep.
Cool.
Mailbag.
Yep.
Away we go. Welcome back for Nathan's Mailbag. Jingle song. Alrighty then. Quick one here about process, because we love the process and being structured and consistent in the Broken by Concept universe. The process in TFT. We've got a TFT podcast now. What the hell's going on here?
That's not what I expected.
Hi, Curtis and Nathan. Thanks for a great podcast. I started playing League of Legends just about a year ago and came across your podcast while trying to catch up in skill to my friends who'd been playing since release. Which is massive, by the way. Those guys have been playing 10 years, catching up.
Unbelievable.
Woo! The process got me from Bronze 4 to Gold 4.
Wow.
As an Ashe 80 carry main, though I still have a long way to go to match my Diamond friends. Where the process has worked better for me is teamfight tactics. In my first season playing, I reached Masters, where I was hard stuck for a few months. But once I implemented reviewing and 3 blocking, I quickly hit Challenger in TFT. I just wasn't losing as many games to basic things like tilt, sleepiness, and the like, and I wasn't repeating as many stupid basic mistakes. I've learned that the process isn't about league, it's just good gaming fundamentals. Cheers, Davis.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. Who would have thought?
So
Makes sense, I guess.
We're going to set up a TFT podcast, Curtis?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
When was the last time you played TFT, Curtis?
Very long time ago.
I think for me, it was about a year ago. I played one set. I went through a phase of playing TFT.
Mine would have probably been more 4 years ago.
Jesus.
Something like that.
So when it was released.
Yeah, when it was new and I was playing, I remember the OG comps.
That was fun, dude.
It was a Guardian and what are the OGs? Assassin or Fighter or some shit. I don't know. Just the original one.
Yeah. The relaunch one.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. But I got really overwhelmed when there was Star Guardian.
Yeah,
I remember I
that was
tried
out of
again. It was
control.
Star Guardian. I'm I don't want to relearn all this too much. Too complicated for me.
Changing the sets. Anyways, that's awesome to hear. And being hard, I'm sure even, TFT, making sloppy mistakes, it's I should have gone for this, or being hard on yourself. I haven't actually properly learned TFT. But yeah, I'll apply the process. Intensity. Yeah. Focus up, dude.
Focus. That's it, really.
All right, next question here is from Jerome. The title of this email is Getting Offrole is Pushing Me Away from Playing the Game. Hey, Nathan and Curtis. First of all, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the great work that you guys are doing for the community. I've been listening to the BBC podcast, guys, for the last 1.5 years. Starting with episode 1, when I was flooring my house and had a blast binging most of it. Currently, you're my number 1 podcast on Spotify rap for 2022.
Wow.
I'm a 34-year-old boomer with ADHD who played season 1 to season 4, came back to League 1.5 years ago and had a rough time getting back into the game, but now I'm a Gold 3 Zach main and going up. With your mindset and process, I've improved my relationship with the game, shaped up my fundamentals, and embraced mastering Zach. Overall, I just became a much better player. I still have a long way to go, but with Zach, I am not afraid to face Lilia or Mordekaiser. However, I'm writing you because of something else. Getting Offrole is pushing me away from playing the game. In my own small sample size, matchmaking seems to have gotten so much worse in preseason. As a jungle man, I get pressed to my secondary or even field role like 30% of the time. I've also had it happen multiple games in a row. This happens in both ranked and normal games. This is very common. All in Sol 2, happening all across ranks. Obviously, the jungle being the new exciting thing, people want to change, expect the new changes. Maybe this is going to be a standard thing. Maybe jungle becomes a really popular role now, potentially, with these changes. Going back to what Riot have wanted to make this a simpler role for people. I understand that the appetite for playing jungle has increased, but also queue time seems to have grown in my experience. Again, that's the nature, I think, preseason.
Yep.
It's all very anecdotal in a small sample size, but the difference feels huge after season with almost no secondary role at all. I even had a ranked game where we had 3 people not on their primary role. It really pushes me away from playing League as I don't feel like playing other roles. It feels like a waste of time to play random other roles that I'm not as invested in. You've had to play champions you don't care about in a role you're not trying to improve on. I have so much to learn in my main role still. Instead, when I get secondary or field role and I lose my first match in a 3 block, it just makes me want to cancel the rest of the block and do something else with my day. And when I drop out of rank to play normals with friends, I get the same thing. We end up both playing off our main role in too many of our games. Do I have to suck it up and just start mastering Janna? Or God forbid, Misfortune? Do I just spam Zach or champions I like in every role? I know there was a high-elo Zach player who did Zach in every role. How do I deal with this?
Okay. So first things first, preseason, there is a lot more secondary and off role because there's less people playing, and so they want to make the queue times more manageable by just getting people in any role, right?
Yep.
So that's that. So it will be better.
Yep.
I don't know how much better in when the season starts.
Time will cure, potentially.
Yes, but number 2, I always say this to people in the MLA: you need to be competent on a secondary role. That's just a fact.
1 or 2 champions.
League. Yep, 1 or 2 champions, and you need to be able to play it in a secondary role. So, look, I think if your champion is able to play multiple roles, that's a bonus. It is a bonus, right? If you're a Yone main, you get secondary, you should probably learn it top. If you're there are some champions that can play in multiple roles. Not many, though. That's
an interesting one. Maybe it's because of my inexperience with lane, but I think it ruins the champion playing it in another role. I used to, everyone used to be like, just play Udi at top.
It depends on the champ because, I feel like I was originally in that stance until I played Yone. I've had an absolute blast
playing at top as well.
Top.
Interesting.
Now, I'm nowhere near as good as I am mid because the matchups are different, but I've learned a shit ton because the way I wrestle with it is that even if I lose the game, I'm still learning with my champion. I'm learning in mid game to skirmishes, and I'm having fun learning the top matchups as well. And so for me, it's like a mental thing. I'm like, I know I'm not. I feel like it's just speeding up my mastery on the champion. But you still have to take it seriously. You have to take it seriously as if you're really... I've been studying top matchups. I've learned a lot of top matchups playing Yone top. But more often than not, what I would suggest for most people is just picking up a simple champion that you somewhat enjoy in a secondary role. You cannot hate it. If you hate it, it's not going to work. You've got to learn to love one champion in another role. So if he's a Zac main and he doesn't feel comfortable playing in a lane, which is fair enough, it's not an easy laner to play... Learn something that has a similar style in another role. Maybe he'd be an on top player. Maybe you'd be a Cassante player. Maybe you'll be something that has utility top. I don't know, Scion or something. Or maybe you want to play utility support like an engaged support, like a Leona or an Amumu. What do you like about Zac? And is there any way or shape or form that you can have that similar experience in another role? And the sad reality is you do need to be able to play a secondary role. At least what I say is at least to a degree where you're not going to lose the game for your team. Just do your job. If you can just do your job baseline, that's enough.
So first thing I want to address the playing champion other role. The way that I think about it is like this is my champion, this is the role, this is the feeling. Maybe it's just because the jungle position, but I will never play that champion in another role.
Because I think jungle and lane, it's very, very different. Yeah. Because mid and top, it's still lane.
It may still lane, yeah. And you're still getting minions. The way that I view it is like, let's say you have like, your work time and your home time. Like I want to separate. I want a different environment. I just want different champions.
I can see how it could really overcomplicate your journey, especially if the identity of the champion is different.
Yeah.
Because if you're playing UD top, your identity could be completely different, right? And then it could confuse you when you're going back between. I could see that for sure.
I agree. I think that it's just the nature of the game, having a secondary role. And so throughout the entire year, I had many blocks, the exact same thing with his experience is that I would just be checked out of the block miserable after I got Offrole my first 1 or 2 games. I think that
But I want it really different. It's not off-roll. It's a secondary role.
It's a secondary role, yes.
Like, I really call people out on this. There's a very big difference between off-roll and secondary role.
Off-roll, you shouldn't really... Yeah, you dodge off-roll.
You dodge off-roll straight up. You ask for your main 2 roles.
Most likely. You
and if you don't get your main 2 roles, then you dodge.
Yep.
That's what should happen.
Right. Yeah, so secondary role. I've been getting support a lot. If you actually look at my profile, my Nathan Mott 4, I can't remember which account. I play on 5 accounts. I have more support games than jungle games. At the beginning, I was frustrated, but I actually started to pick up the champion. Think about Champ Master. My Nautilus has gotten pretty good. My Nautilus, and I've been picking up a Mumu as well, learning that champion. I think it's a blessing in disguise, and I think that my advice is if you are struggling, you hate your secondary role, literally learn it.
Try to learn it. It's a mindset.
Literally okay, I'm gonna main this. I'm like a Nautilus main. Yep. I basically was a Nautilus main over the last couple of weeks.
I'm going to tell you a funny story here though.
Yeah.
I had a client. I have a client. Name's Weber. And he said, Curtis, I don't know why I'm not improving. I feel like I'm improving, but I'm not climbing. I said, all right, give me your OBG. Let's see what's up. Right. I was expecting he's not sticking to a champ pool, whatever it might be. He's got main champ, number 1, most played, his main champ. And then he's got his secondary role. He's Jin, 80 carry, right? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, fine. You must get secondary role a lot. It makes sense. But the problem is that he never took his secondary role seriously. And he's got a 36% win rate over a shit ton of games or whatever it was. And I'm like, and then all his his 2 mid champs are great. He's got positive win rates. But then he's got Jin and another 80 carry with terrible win rates. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, if we just removed these here, you would be so much higher elo than you are right now.
That's a lot of elo.
And this is why it's actually important. I said, dude, you got to take your secondary role seriously.
You have to, yeah.
I'm like, I told him, you got to go ahead and actually learn 80. If you're going to play it, learn it.
You got to apply the process
to the secondary role.
Even
though it sucks, you got to do it.
Yeah, I've been bringing my intensity to my support, really thinking about, hardcore thing about map state, everything, and it has actually become fun.
It has more fun. It does become more fun.
I actually enjoy it. If I get my secondary, I'm like, oh, cool. I feel like I can even carry games now.
I generally find that there is always either an 80 carry or a support for everyone, no matter what role you play.
I think there is as well. I think there's literally a champion for everyone.
If you're an assassin player, you might want to play Pike or something, or something like that. If you want to play a tanky style, there's heaps of tank supports, utility supports. If you're a defensive player or a mage player, there's so many enchanters.
Yep.
There is, or even you could play poke-oriented 80 carries like Ezreal or something. There's a champion for everyone in bot lane.
Yep.
It's just learn it.
Yep. Yeah. For me, I'm an early game jungler. I love early game high pressure. So I love Karma, the pressure from Karma, and Mumu and Nautilus.
Done.
And that's it. Those are 3 champs I'm pretty confident in. My Mumu may need a little bit of work, but again, I think the preseason has been a blessing in disguise because this is going to set me up for success when the season starts, when I do get my secondary role.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about my secondary role because I get in mid a lot.
Oh, you do.
And I'm
so what's your secondary role at the moment? Top.
I know. I'm really conflicted.
You played a support.
No, I went to support, then I went to 80 carry.
Oh my
I was playing
God.
Ziggs. I was killing them.
Oh yeah, you're playing Ziggs, weren't you?
I was loving Ziggs. I was actually having a shit ton of success on Ziggs, and because I have the mastery, and what I just tell people in Champ Select, I'll play Ziggs, just play a roam support. And then I just tell them from that champ, I literally play a roam support.
Just
leave me on an island. And I can minimize perfectly.
Yeah.
I know how to CS from I can fix waves with my R. I got
Ziggs
TP.
is super good being
it's
alone.
The best weak side 80 carry and it's bot lane. And I just go Ziggs. And it's actually really underrated. With that, people sleep on Ziggs, especially when you swap mid. Your W passive,
Yeah.
it's very, very good.
Dude, I love a Ziggs. I'm like, I always know I can break bots out really easily.
easy.
It's a good way
So
to get back
I'm
pressure.
happy. I think Ziggs is going to be basically my main pick that I'm just going to play.
It's very niche.
And
Offrole.
because I've got so much champ mastery on Ziggs.
Yeah, you do.
I've got metric ton of champ mastery on Ziggs. And my feel of that champ is insane.
It is.
The other one I was thinking, because I've been playing shit ton of Yone, is just learning all the matchups top with Yone. That's another alternative. So depending on if I get my secondary role a lot, I think I'll probably end up going down the Yone route and just learn all the matchups with Yone top.
Yep.
If I'm not getting it enough and I'm just not getting enough secondary role games in, I'd probably just do the secondary Ziggs and just like play my 1 in every 10 games of Ziggs. And I'd be happy to do that. That's what my plan is. So I'm a little bit concerned because I haven't done it all season, or preseason, sorry. So we'll see how it goes, I guess. Could be my downfall.
Yeah. So, so to sum it up for me, yes, I was in the same position as you. Absolutely hated when I got support last season. But trust me, it actually can be fun when you take it seriously and think about champ mastery. Like I was in your exact same shoes and I actually do enjoy it now and feel confident on it. And that's because I've actually committed to it and I've played it a lot.
It's a mindset.
It is a mindset.
It's a mindset. Eric Bugenhagen mindset.
You got to just blindly trust me on this one, all right?
That's right.
All right, that's it for the episode today, everyone. Good work. Let's keep on using preseason. It's going to go very quick. Only 4 weeks to go until the season launch, season 13. We'll see you next episode.